All right, so the first show of 2024, first major show anyway, is done. It's in the record books. Virgil Ortiz comes back with winning ways, and on the undercard, which is the fight we're going to talk about here, which is a fight that I Ismael Barroso versus Ohara Davies. Now, Ismael Barroso winning, I made Ohara Davies favourite going into the fight. I think I said that in a couple of videos. I expect him to win. If Barroso won, I mean, it's not a, earth-shattering shock. But in a round, I mean, if you had told me that, I would have said, no, no, no. Maybe him winning on points or stopping Ohara Davies late, yeah, I could see that. But in a round, I'd have said, no, 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 come on. Give me a realistic bet. Boy. Where do we start with this fight? There's not much to talk about in the fight in a sense of that because it was roughly 2 minutes long, the fight was. So, not a long fight, but boy, right, so Ohara Davies last March beat Lewis Ritson. That made him mandatory for the WBA title. It was a good performance against Lewis Ritson, actually. Very good performance by Ohara Davies. And then he subsequently signed with Golden Boy. WBA title was fought between Rowley and Ismael Barroso. Now, Ismael Barroso is winning the fight, which is not a hard thing to do against someone like Rowley because I maintain this and I'll stand by it. He is the worst champion in boxing. By a country mile, he's the worst champion in boxing. At 140 pounds against Lopez, against Haney, against Mateus, he would get annihilated by all of them. Absolutely annihilated by all of them. It wouldn't even be competitive. Right? So he goes in there, he gets a win over Ismael Barroso, and Tony Weeks, who actually was refereeing the main event, Virgil Ortiz's fight, and that was a premature stoppage as well, stops Ismael Barroso in the ninth round, I think it was, and just, that was just a farcical stoppage. It really was. And, in many ways you could say he was really screwed out of his title there. It basically meant that Ohara Davies was mandatory. He wanted to go down the road of having a world title shot, and I couldn't really blame him because world title shots aren't easy to come by, especially when you're mandatory for a very, very weak champion. It's basically like saying turn up, do what you got to do and you're going to become world champion. That's how I felt it would be for Ohara Davies because I never thought he would be world champion until he was mandatory for Rowley, and then I was like, all right, he's going to be world champion then because, seriously, that's how poor Rowley is. He's really, really poor champion. Anyway, Rowley gets an injury. I thought they were going to make him champion in recess. They didn't. So they ordered this fight for the interim title. Okay, fair enough. And here we are. Now, let's talk about the fight. In terms of how Barroso came out, I was surprised because Barroso is normally a pressure fighter. He normally throws a lot of punches. It's come back to bite him in fights, like against Anthony Crolla. He came out in that fight really aggressive, threw everything at Anthony Crolla but the kitchen sink. Crolla was able to tuck up, block the shots, and it's very rare you see fighters, that fight was at lightweight, by the way. It's very rare you see fighters in that weight division gas as quick as Barroso did in that fight because he was done by about the 5th, 6th round. In terms of stamina was gone. He was so tired in that fight. That was in 20. That was actually the same day as Canelo versus Can. Sky done that show, and then later on that evening, Box Nation had Canelo Can. Just a little fun fact. But he threw everything at Crolla, couldn't get rid of Crolla, and then just gone. No stamina left in the tank, and it was more, there were some good body shots that Anthony Crolla threw in there, but it was more just that he had nothing left in the tank at that point, and that was it. Since then, he has taken some L's, but he's improved. You can see that he's an improved fighter. He is an aging fighter. He is 40 years old. I know he looks a bit older than that, but officially he's 40 years old. But you can see in this fight, he changed his style up. He was moving on the back foot, which is something that, again, when I was watching it, I was like, that's not something I would typically expect to see from Ismael Barroso on the back foot, but that's what he was doing. Ohara Davies is actually quite comfy at long range. He has very long arms. He knows how to use them, and he's a puncher in his own right. So for the first couple of seconds, like 30 seconds, it was just, both guys, boxing, moving. Ohara Davies picked up the aggression after about a minute, and what ended up happening was he took a step in, hands came down, and he got caught with a counter left, right? And to be honest with you, how Ohara did, I know he went down subsequently, but how he stood up to that shot is beyond me. Because his legs, it was a big shot, and his legs looked gone. Looked absolutely gone. So he did subsequently go down. from a little flurry from Ismael Barroso, and referee administered a count. You could see that Ohara Davies, yes, he was responding to the referee, but he did not know where he was. He was absolutely in la la land. Legs were completely gone. Referee lets it continue. He goes, another flurry of shots go in, and he goes down again. Second knockdown of the fight. He's nodding at the referee when he's getting up. So Ohara Davies, the referee is asking, do you want to continue? And it's a nod, right? The referee obviously wasn't happy with what he's seeing, because obviously he didn't respond and say yes. It was just a pure nod of the head. Didn't like the look of his eyes. Apparently the doctor was up on the ring apron as well, so the doctor was even kind of worried, like, oh, can this really go on? Referee waves the fight off. It stopped at about 2 minutes of the first round. Now, some would argue, could the referee let it carry on? To be honest with you, I didn't like what I was seeing from Ohara Davies there myself. Probably best to stop it in that regard, because all that was going to happen was that he was going to get knocked down again, and either the referee was going to wave it off because it was a third knockdown, or Ohara Davies was going to get badly hurt. So I think that in that sense, referee was right to call it off, because Ohara Davies was completely gone. It's a shock for me out of left field in the nature of that loss. I guess it's more the nature. I mean, Ohara Davies losing, yeah, I could see it, but not in the first round. God no, because his previous two losses, one was against Josh Taylor in a fight where he quit after taking a sustained beating over 7 rounds. And, that was a damaging loss. Ohara Davies picked himself up, he came back. His next loss then was to Jack Catterall. That fight, right, against Jack Catterall was a horrendous fight. I think it was in Leicester. And good Lord, it was so dull, so boring. I mean, both guys made that, but neither guy wanted to commit in that fight. Neither guy wanted to let any power shots go. It was more interesting seeing, all right, whose foot's going to come together this time, because the feet kept getting tangled together in that fight, and that was more action than what was going on in terms of punches being thrown. It was a terrible fight. And yeah, Jack Catterall got the win. Yeah, no issue with that, because it was such a stinker. It could have went either way. The only issue with that fight was they had it wide to Catterall, which was a bit, because to be honest, there was nothing happening in the round. You couldn't really give it to either guy. To be honest, it was a horrible fight. A draw would have been fair, to be honest with you, in that fight. And then we take this loss. This is the most devastating and the most damaging. First round knockout with big shots like that to Ismael Barroso. It's going to take some coming back from. That's what I will say. I really don't know what Ohara Davies does from here. I mean, he's obviously made a video saying, it's what happens. He's devastated. And as you can imagine, that's going to take some coming back from. That's what I will say. In terms of Ismael Barroso, I mean, he gets a chance at redemption. I know Ryan Garcia, who was talking about, looking to fight Devin Haney, has now changed his tune and is looking at Rowley. Obviously, he sees that fight as a more winnable fight, easier fight, clearly. Because, Devin Haney, you would imagine, would bring more money. But obviously he doesn't want to take another L. I would imagine he's not the most confident going in there against someone like Devin Haney. And look, you have to look at Dalton Smith if he fought Rolly Romero next. Adam Azim if he fought Rolly next. I'd make both of them favourite. So, of course, Ryan Garcia is going to be a heavy favourite against him as well. That's why he'd look at that fight. But let Ismael Barroso have his chance at redemption. He deserves it. He was winning the fight. It was absolute nonsense, that stoppage. So credit to him. Commiserations to Ohara Davies. That's my thoughts on the fight. Let me know. Did you watch it? Did you watch it live? Were you surprised? I know when I woke up this morning, I was looking through, and I was more interested in how Ortiz looked. I looked at his fight first. Didn't even look at this fight. Just thinking, okay, oh yeah. I was like, Ohara Davies, yeah, he probably won. I was like, huh? What's this? It's like, first round, I was like, what? So yeah, big surprise for me. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. As I'll leave it there. Peace.